Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Zoe Bambara. I am the youth organizer for Women Engaged. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon for You Ask, We Answers. So, today we have an awesome episode planned for you all. But before we get started, I want us to be able to fill into the virtual space and introduce ourselves. And also, just like I want us to get to know each other. So, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat by telling us your name, where you're from, the organization that you're representing, if applicable. And we also have a fun icebreaker coming. So, yes, fill in the chat where you're from, your name, and how you're feeling today. So, before we go into the icebreaker, I want us to go over a few things that have been happening in the news this week. So, of course, tonight we have the debates happening at 7 p.m. And I'm going to be quoting the New York Times. This matchup, we have Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker, who will be debating for their Senate race. Their matchup, just 3 days before early voting begins in Georgia, will be the first and probably the only debate in the state Senate, in the state's race for Senate, which has emerged as one of the most pivotal contests for control of the chamber. This 1 hour event, hosted by Nexstar Media in Savannah, Georgia, will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern. So yes, go and watch the debates. And we also have some other news and stuff that's been happening. So according to AP News, comedians Eric Andre and Clayton English are challenging a police program at the Atlanta airport they say violates the constitutional rights of airline passengers, particularly Black passengers, through racial profiling and coercive searches just they're about to board their flights. Lawyers for the two men filed a lawsuit Tuesday in federal court in Atlanta, alleging that they were racially profiled and illegally stopped by Clayton County Police at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. So please go and look at that, and just do like your research and things like that. I think this is an important conversation to have in all of our households about how we interact with police, and how we interact with police at airports. So I encourage everyone to go and just do the research on their own and have those conversations in community with one another at how we interact with different people. So oh, awesome! I see Atlanta. Awesome. The weather is getting. I'm loving the Atlanta weather right now. I hate the heat. Everybody knows that. So I am very excited that it's cold because I don't like Georgia summers. I hate it. I've been here my entire life, never liked it. So one more thing. I don't know if anybody or anybody's a rap fan, but there's been some like rap beef going on between Nicki Minaj and all the new rap girlies. I don't know if anyone's interested, but being the youth organizer, I have to bring it up. So I'm a little sad that there's no like, maybe solidarity is not the right word. I mean, it could be, but like, I want all the rap girlies to get along. I'm hating the beef. It's making me so sad. But I had to bring it. I had to bring it up. It would be remiss of me not to bring it up. Being a youth organizer and being 21, who loves all the girls in the rap industry, so had to bring it up. And yeah, so just some like other news. Don't forget the election. Exactly, exactly. Nobody wins. Do you know how awesome it will be if we got all the rap girlies on one song or on one tour? I'll be first row. First row. Other news, don't forget the election day is coming up. Early voting starts October 17th through the November 4th. You can find your polling information, sample ballots, and more by visiting the My Voter page through the Georgia Secretary of State. That is mvp.sos.ga.gov. I'm going to repeat it, and I'm going to go a little bit slower. mvp.sos.ga.gov. The last day to submit an application for an absentee ballot is October 28th. So yeah, everybody keep that in mind. And remember, it is important that we get out to vote this election. And of course, in this episode, we will be going through what's on the ballot, what to be prepared for, and just things of that nature, because that's all very important dates, weekend voting, all of that. So now I'm going to go into icebreakers. Now, I'm going to be honest, when it comes to this time of year, I definitely get ahead of myself in terms of I'm not thinking about Halloween, fall, or Thanksgiving. I'm thinking about Christmas. So I'm wondering, drop in the chat, what is your favorite Christmas movie? Or it could just be your favorite holiday movie. Like something that you will always, always watch on repeat. I'm very interested in what you guys have to say. I know for me, probably this Christmas or that new Christmas movie that came out with Monique. I I love that movie. I'm trying to think, is there any other Christmas movie that just Unaccompanied Minors. Love that movie. Such a great movie. That's probably my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I definitely get ahead of myself. I know we're not even in we're not even close to Christmas, but I'm wondering what is you guys' like favorite Christmas movie? It's a Wonderful Life. Okay. Home Alone. I'm liking these options. I'm liking these options. This Christmas, exactly. All-star cast. Wonderful cast. Hilarious. Great movie. Nightmare. Oh, see, this may be a little controversial. I hate stop motion movies. I hate stop motion. Stop motion scares me. I'm a scary movie fan, but I always draw the line at stop motion. Stop motion, no thank you. I know Jordan Peele is coming out with a new Halloween movie and it's stop motion. I I don't know if I'll be watching. Stop motion creeps me out. But thank you guys for doing the icebreaker. Christmas story, awesome. Thank you guys for doing the icebreaker. I really, really appreciate it. Um, and thank you for engaging with us. For this icebreaker, we're happy to join once again in community and share space for this YAWA episode. And before we get started, I would love to just kind of, before we share space, I want to commemorate those that have come before us in the movement for advancing Black women's human rights, youth empowerment, and civic engagement efforts in Georgia. We honor our leaders, thinkers, elders, and community, both past and present. So I would love to just hold a 30-second, moment of silence just to honor those who come before us, the shoulders that we stand on, and the land that we are on as well. So I'm going to give it 30 seconds. Awesome. Thank you guys. And before we get started, I just want to go into a few logistical points and organizational updates. So, election season is upon us, of course. We are looking for canvassers and volunteers to join us this election season for digital and in person organizing. If you're interested in text banking, phone banking, or door knocking, send your resume to info@womenengage.org. We currently pay $20 an hour, working 15 to 20 hours a week, evening and weekends. And also, please visit our bit.ly and take our pledge to vote at bit.ly /we pledge 22. This not only showcases the power of communities, but we can connect you to resources such as rides to polls and stamps for absentee ballots. Be sure to visit our bit.ly, bit.ly /we pledge 22 for more information. And so, with all that being said, I would love to welcome Michelle into the space because we are now going to get into our ballot.
Hey, Zoe.
Hello.
Oh, gosh. It's great to be back.
Yes. How are you feeling?
It's definitely election season.
Yeah. What a great way to explain it. Definitely election season. Definitely like November, where are you? That's how it's going a little too slow.
Yes, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things, especially because we just closed out voter registration. and then just jumping straight into GOTV. And so it's definitely a time. It's definitely a time.
Definitely a time.
Like to get the work. And so I'm excited that we can like talk a bit about what's on the ballot, because I think like, you know, people always like look at the big ticket stuff, which of course we know like everybody's looking at the Senate race and the governor's race, but it's like everything else also matters too on the ballot, and
Yes.
oftentimes it just doesn't get as much attention or just as much information in general. And so I'm just glad that, you know, to be in space with you and as we talk about this.
Yes. Yes. Let's get to the nitty and gritty. I'm
Yes.
excited.
So I should bring up the PowerPoint at this
Yes.
moment. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Just ready to try.
Yes. Yes, we can go into the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So, did you like to do, or you want me to?
I'll let you do this one. You do this one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey y'all. I love this picture. It cracks me up every time. I don't know if you guys ever watched Zach and Cody, but she was always crying and throwing up, and it was so funny to me. So I had to use this picture because I'm like, y'all, don't freak out. The dates are confusing, I know. So I want to go to the important dates of this election season. So of course, the general election is November 8th, 2022. Early voting starts on October 17th through November 4th, 2022. And we're gonna go into like the specifics of like early voting. So don't freak out. Like I said, we got you. So don't we're gonna get there. Of course, the registering to vote deadline to vote in this election has already passed. But if you registered before then, you should be fine to vote in this election. But you should always still check your voter registration just in case you don't want any mishaps. Um, Early voting, like I said, starts October 17th, ends November 4th. You need to submit your voter absentee ballot from the October 7th through November 8th, and of course, election day is November 8th.
Yay, thank you, Zoe. So we also created like this really nifty timeline for everybody just to kind of like visually see when the dates look like. I know for me, I'm a very big visual person. If it looks like a picture, I commit it to memory a little better. So like as Zoe said, early voting is October 17th through the 4th. In Georgia, it is mandated that there's at least 2 Saturday voting days. So those days are October 22nd and October 29th. And this is an effort to make sure that voting's more accessible. Just because like sometimes during the week, you know, depending on jobs and schedules, you may not necessarily be able to get out and go vote during the week. And so these are opportunities to take there. Now, some counties will offer optional Sunday voting. And when that does take place, that takes place October 23rd and October 30th. That's very much contingent on the county in which you stay in. So if you stay in like Fulton County or the surrounding Atlanta metro area, typically most of those counties do follow suit in having voting on Sunday, especially because a lot of churches participate in an activity called Souls to the Polls, where they do efforts to get out the vote and everybody collectively go out and vote together. However, I always suggest that you check with your county elections office to make sure that that information is correct in terms of like it being there. I would say like if you need help or more assistance with that, please check our website, sign up, send us an email at info@womenengage.org, and somebody from our team will help walk you through the process of, just figuring out if you have Sunday voting in your area or Saturday voting. In terms of your absentee ballot, the last day to request an absentee ballot is October 28th. So that means that like you have up until now, until October 28th, to request an absentee ballot. That ballot will come to you either, via mail if you request it that way, or you can also request it online as well. I'll provide a link in the chat about that in a second. However, the biggest thing to note is that this absentee ballot has to be returned to your county elections office by 7 p.m. on election day. So when election day is coming around, you have a couple of options. You could hand deliver it directly to your county elections office. If you're doing it by mail, I suggest that you do it no later than at least 3 days before election day in order to ensure that it gets to them in time. And something else that you can do, let's say that like, oh no, you forgot to mail it. Oh no, you may not make it to your county elections office. You can take your absentee ballot with you to your assigned polling location on election day. And what you'll do is that you'll surrender that ballot, saying that like, hey, I no longer need this ballot. And then you can go through with just voting on election day. So that's another option for you. If you run into any issues in terms of like turning in your absentee ballot. And then, of course, as we know, election day is November 8th. A big thing for us is that, like, when it comes to election day, especially like the messaging around it, we talk about like, oh, election day is the day to vote, but really it's the last day to vote. And I say it in that way in saying that, like, if you can vote sooner or earlier, it's a lot easier for everyone involved in terms of poll workers, for yourself, getting these things out of the way in terms of that. And it also helps to mitigate any potential issues. That's why we really encourage people at this time that, like, when you're going to go vote, it's important to create a plan to go vote, meaning that you've already looked up your information, you've confirmed your polling location, you've confirmed that your voter registration status is active and up to date. And then once you do that, you make a plan. So, like, how are you getting there? What time of day are you going? Do you need transportation to get there? Have you familiarized yourself with the ballot to know exactly what you're voting for? Because I hear stories all the time about people who like um, go to vote and then they're like, oh wow, I didn't know this was going to be like a 5 or 6 page ballot. Like, it happens all the time. And it's like, in order to help like mitigate that and for you to be able to feel the most informed and most confident when it comes to voting, it's really important to just do that due diligence of planning and things like that. However, we know that that stuff is really daunting. And so, our team here at Women Engage, as well as our amazing canvassers and volunteers, are trained experts and trusted resources to help walk you through that process. So again, if you ever need help with those kind of things, we do have resources, we have literature, we have all these things, and we also have this video that we're doing to like provide information in the best way that we can to be really accessible for folks leading up to election day. So that was a lot of information to just go over key dates to remember, but again, the biggest things to remember is that early voting starts October 17th. Check your status and make a plan to go vote. These are your key dates that you need to remember when you're making your plan to go vote.
I have a question for you. So when people go and request their absentee ballot online, do they print it out?
No, it'll be able to be submitted online. However, you want to make sure that you have a copy of your ID
You can
visually that you
submit
can
it
send along.
online?
Mhm.
OMG.
That
You
is
didn't have to leave
something
the house.
That's something that they introduced in 2020. I took advantage of
Mhm.
it back then. Which back then I will say it was a much easier process because of all the
Mhm.
COVID protections. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, due to the passage of SB 202 that passed last year, the huge mega bill that suppressed a lot of voting opportunities, they've added
Mhm.
a little bit more hoops in terms of being able
Okay.
to do your absentee ballot. A lot of it's really surrounding the ID requirements
Mhm.
around your absentee ballot, because before you didn't have to submit your ID, like a picture of your ID to get your absentee ballot, but now you do. Like, and
Okay, so
that's a little bit difficult for folks who may not be as tech savvy or have access to technology to get that done. Meaning like
yeah.
having access to a scanner or the ability to like take your picture on a smartphone and figure out a way to bring it to a computer and like upload it there. That's a whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
and so I always tell people if they have issue with that, you can also just call your county elections office or the Secretary of State, and they will just mail it to you. So you can call
Okay.
them, or you can also email your elections office. There's a number of ways to get in contact with them, but my
Okay.
biggest thing is about accessibility, and so
Yeah.
online does make it more accessible, of course, if you're interested in doing that. And I love that outside of other states, Georgia is a no excuse absentee ballot state, meaning that you don't have to have like a reason per se to get an absentee ballot. So like
That's
some other
beautiful. Yeah.
states, like Missouri, for example, and I only say that because I'm from Missouri and I was a little
Mhm.
salty about this when I was in
Mhm.
undergrad. You
Mhm.
have to have an excuse. So you have to be like actually disabled, you have to be in military in order to get an absentee ballot, and that's it. So like let's say like
Mm.
just let's say you just wanted to get an absentee ballot because you just know you're not gonna be early voting, or let's say you're traveling or what all that other
Mhm.
jazz. Um, they won't let you do it, at least not in the state of Missouri. But in the state of Georgia, they will. So that's one thing that's like
Gotcha.
really good positive. So you don't need to have a
Okay.
reason. You don't need to say that like, oh, this is like the reason why I'm getting an absentee ballot. Anyone can get an absentee ballot in the state of Georgia.
Gotcha. So this is me being a little selfish because I want to know the process. I think I'm gonna do that. So when it comes to requesting an absentee ballot online, you have to send in your ID first to request it, and then submit it with your absentee ballot, or you can request it regardless, and then you
You
have to
send it with your
upload your
request.
ID.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And in
Okay.
fact, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat for everyone who's tuning in because I saw somebody else said like they didn't know. This is a short link that Women Engage has created. It does go directly to the Secretary of State's website, so you don't have to worry about that. Because I know sometimes people are a little like, "What's this Bitly? Like, what are you sending me?" That's what that is. Like, and so I'm actually pulling it up now just so I can walk through where it is. Like, you can verify your driver's license number on record. You can download the blank thing, or you can complete and submit your absentee ballot application online. There's 3 options. And when you go on, you're going to select the date of the election that you are voting in. You're going to give your details, your information, stuff like that, and then be able to do that there. And then once you get done with that, there's a verification for your driver's license. They're just going to ask for an image of your license and also to put in the information that's on there. So they get voter ID requirements, because that was the huge fear from 2020 after in the 2020, like leading up to the 2020 election, the Secretary of State had just sent everybody absentee ballot applications. So that's why in 2021 they were like, absolutely not, you cannot do that. Which is good. That's what I'm saying. Look, because other states have those kind of things where like every election they just get something in the mail and people just put their ballots in the mail and it's done. But again, we're still fighting for more progressive things in Georgia, but just wanted to lift that up. Like, it's
That's
totally
awesome. You don't know how many people I probably just got to vote, because I think going and voting in person can be very, I don't want to say intimidating, but intimidating. Like, people, they're like, I don't know how long. And I love that you said that November 8th is the last day to vote, because people get that. And that's why the lines be so long. Well, the lines shouldn't be long anyway, but that's why the lines be so long and be wrapped around the building, is because people wait to the last minute. But I love, and I'm shocked I didn't know this, but thank you for bringing it up, that I can just vote from my bed.
Right? That's what I'm saying. It's
I love that.
It's so great. And like, I mean, I even made a TikTok about it like in 2020. I think I'm gonna resurrect that TikTok because it's like really like, I love voting by absentee in general, just because like also too what I like about it is that like you get time to really sit with your ballot. Like in a sense that like I remember in 2020 it was like I got my ballot and I could like sit with it and like go through each position and like figure out, who's running, like look at the stuff they got going on, and like it's just, really good stuff. And so oh, I see this. I'm going to pull this up because I do want to talk about this. I got like 5 absentee ballots that year. So this is the thing, right? And I think this is where things get a little confusing because we get calls like this. There's stuff that is official that comes through the Secretary of State, and there's stuff that comes through third-party organizations like voter participation centers, stuff like that. And those are different things, right? Because what will sometimes happen is that we get people who, of course, are a little bit leery of the fact that that so many people have access to their information, so they're like, what's going on? But then also too that they're like, why am I getting so many ballots when I've already done the process with the Secretary of State? Or where's the Secretary of State seal on this, and things of that nature. And so sometimes some of those things are through third-party organizations. They will still help process the help you process it, but it's just like kind of like an extra step in terms of that. It's not to discourage the work around it, but it's just making sure that we're being cognizant of the information that's coming in and not necessarily calling them all absentee ballots, because they're not all absentee ballots. Your absentee ballot will come in an official package directly from the Secretary of State. If it's not directly from the Secretary of State, it is not an absentee ballot. Like it's not an absentee ballot. Just no, not at all.
So is it a mock ballot, so you know what's on your ballot?
Some organizations do send mock ballots.
Okay.
But sometimes what they'll do is that they'll also send like a paper or a website or something that will help you get your absentee ballot through their organization, kind of like in the ways that our organization will make sure that you're on the voter rolls. It's the flip side of that, and for the voting access. And so there's different tools and stuff like that too that kind of help people through that process. And what they do is that they end up sending your data to the Secretary of State on your behalf to get that information sent to you. But it's always, looking at the fine print, seeing who is signed by, stuff like that. But if it doesn't say Georgia Secretary of State on it, then it's technically not the official document. That's why I
Okay.
said like, so it's a dance in a sense that like I'm just a proponent of like get it how you can. So
Mhm.
like, get
Yes.
it how you can, right?
Yeah.
The other part about it too is that you're able to track your absentee ballot through the My Voter page. So that My Voter page, when you check all your information, you get sample ballots and all that other stuff. You can also check the status of your absentee ballot on the My Voter page, meaning like,
Awesome.
is it still in transit?
Mhm.
Have they received it yet? Has it been counted yet? Like it'll show you all of that information on your My Voter page as well, which is why like honestly, the My Voter page is like one of the best things that Georgia has done in terms of like access and getting information out there to people in terms of voting.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's a lot. No, but like
I
a
know
lot
this
of
is like
great. No, it's a lot of
we're
great
supposed to be talking about what's on the
information.
ballot, and I'm like, this is absentee ballot. And
Yes.
I'm
No,
like,
that's a
again,
lot.
I'm a person who's like, get it how you can. Even if you want to just sit with your ballot, but you're like, I prefer to go in person. Because again, people like the one
Yeah,
thing about absentee ballots is that you don't get your I voted sticker, you don't get your peach, you know, and some people
that's
really
true.
like that.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so I just say go to your My Voter page, get your sample ballot, and just look at it. And the reason I say go to
Mhm.
your My Voter page as opposed to going to your county elections office is that because depending on your municipality, like the city that you stay in, there might be
Mhm.
different elections that are on there that are unique to just your city. You
Okay.
know, so like I know for
Mhm.
myself, like I technically stay in an unincorporated county, like an unincorporated part of the county. So technically, I have a city on my address, but I am not a resident of that city. So when I look at my ballot, it won't be on my ballot in that way. So that's why I say it's really important to
Got
look at
it.
your My Voter page because it's going to give
Okay.
you the specific elections that you uniquely will be voting for.
God, and
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I love all of this, and I do need to. And this kind of goes into my next question for you. Um, like, what's your like your ritual for voting? Like, what is your like? I know for me, my mom, when I lived with my mom, she would print out my ballot and hand it to me and be like, "Go and read." And write down notes. So when you go in there, you know what you're voting for. Now, since I'm on my own, I got to figure out. I'm probably going to do it from my bed and just have my laptop. Like, okay, this is I need to figure out and see. I'm gonna look stuff up as I go. But I would love to hear like what do you do? Like, what's your go to?
I appreciate that question. And unfortunately, I really honestly don't have a ritual. And it's only because of the line of work that I'm in the sense that
Mm,
like I'm the kind of person who is like, I'm gonna try everything in an effort to just test it out. So like even in
mm,
2020, the main reason I really voted absentee was like I just wanted to see what the experience was like so I can better inform others about what the experience is like to vote absentee. Like
mhm,
I can tell you now for this election, I'm planning to vote absentee because again, I want to see what that experience is like in an SB 202 fashion. Um,
mm, mhm.
Typically, if it's like a off year election or a non major election, I'll usually go early voting.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever voted on election day, at least in while I've worked at Women Engaged, only because we're doing election protection work, and this is
Yeah.
like a shameless plug for anybody who's listening. Election protection is a great time to like make sure the polls are open, and we're always
Mhm.
looking for volunteers. So hit us up.
I don't
Hit us
think I've
up.
ever voted on election day either. Now that I think I've only done early voting. Now that I think
Yes.
about it.
So like hit us up. The website
Yes.
is scrolling down below because I'm just saying, but yeah, I just have to do that shameless
Yes.
plug. But
Shameless plug. Hit us up.
but yeah, that's also like I typically I haven't voted on election day since I started at Women Engaged because of that. But like and also too like I come at elections a little differently just because of like my political background and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So it's not always like necessarily a ritual because it's like this is just what every day. But I do think it's good to have like a practice in a sense that
Yeah.
like I knew I was voting absentee for this election like a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I said, like just thinking about it in that way. And sooner or later it becomes kind of like second nature. But again, it's really about just creating a plan. Cause I don't know about y'all, but like if I don't create a plan to do something, it'll just keep getting pushed off. Right.
Mhm. Yes, I felt
Um,
that.
so that's what I was like. So
Yes.
that's why I'm always like, let's just create a plan. And also, I feel like it's also about creating a plan about like that meets you where you are, right? So I think there's
Mhm.
like, of course, the idealistic sense that you're like, I'm gonna go on election day and do all this other stuff. But like, let's be real, life happens, right?
Yes, it
Like
does.
I remember when I was in Missouri, there was an election that I missed because at the time I was working like 2.5 jobs. And no,
Two
people,
and a half.
I was working 2.5. I was working 2.5 jobs. And
Okay.
I was working one job that morning and they asked me if I could work a double. And back, I really needed the money. Like, so,
Yeah.
and it was election day. And I had planned to vote on election day after I got off work, but I could not go because I ended up working a double, which took up all the hours. And that's why I said, like, again, life happens. So it's really important that, we just take the effort to, meet ourselves where we're at and just be real with ourselves. Like, let's put a couple plans in place because things happen. So, like, I always
Yeah.
encourage people, if you can, try to vote early. Set up a couple of dates. Have a plan B in terms of being able to get out and go vote. So you're not like me when I was younger. It was just like, well, can't vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I love this, and I think I would love to maybe this is something we can discuss offline, but I would love to see, like, how to vote from your bed. I feel like because I never see I haven't I didn't know that, and I guess a lot of people don't think that I could do an absentee ballot online. Like, of course, you can request it, to be sent to your house, but I can do it from my computer, from my bed.
From your
I
phone,
ain't gotta on my
like,
phone.
like,
What?
right?
So I love that. I think and that's so important because when we talk about being accessible, that could save a lot of people. Like
Mhm.
that trouble. Like, oh, I can just do it, while I'm working from home, or I got this baby on my arm, I can't go out, so I can do it from my phone really. What? I love it.
Game changer. Like,
Game changer. Love it.
oh my gosh. So yeah. That's all my
Awesome.
information about that. But of course,
Okay.
again, for folks who are listening, if you need more help or things like that, we're here for you. Hit us up. We got you covered. And so I guess we'll move to the next slide to actually talk about a little bit more about like the positions that are down ballot
Mhm.
that a lot of folks will be considering. So I think that's the next slide. If it's not,
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
So
Okay. And I can go over quickly, just like quick descriptions of each position. And I know it's not listed, but I can go over the governor and the secretary of state as well. And it doesn't look like Senate is on here either. But I can do that as well. So, of course, the governor is the head of government in Georgia and the commander in chief of the state's military forces. They have the power to convene and sign um, into law bills passed by the Georgia legislator. Um, and also, one question I meant to ask this last time: when we do find the results of the election, when do they start their their position?
January.
January.
Yeah,
January
there'll
1st?
be an official swear-in day that they
Okay.
officially start.
Okay. And is that coinciding with when Georgia legislative session starts?
No, but
Okay.
it'll still take effect, right? So like
Okay.
whenever their swearing in date is, then that's the day that they're like the assumed governor.
Okay.
And usually, like I say that to say so because I get where the questions come from, so I just want to
Mhm.
answer it.
Mhm.
If there's any bills that are passed during the legislative session, the governor that's elected in this upcoming election will be the one to sign those bills into law or have the power to veto.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Great. Thank you for that. And so next we have um let's see, lieutenant governor elected every 4 years. They serve as president of Georgia Senate, and if the governor becomes unable to do their job, the lieutenant governor assumes the powers, but not the title of governor. And then we also have Secretary of State. The Georgia Secretary of State oversees voting, tracks annual corporate filings, grants professional licenses, and oversees the state's securities market. That one's very, 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 very important. Very, 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 very.
Yeah, like I
Yes.
want to add, like, a lot of people don't realize how important that position is. And I just have
Mhm.
flashbacks of 2018 and how like tumultuous that is that the word? Is that the word I want to
Yes.
use? How
Yes. And that's a
energetic
good word. Yeah.
Was how energetic, how much energy there was around the election. And what people
Mhm.
don't know is that while we were waiting, they were doing the recount of the votes for the governor race, we were actually in a runoff for Secretary of State.
Wow.
And the
Mhm.
margin between the candidates who were running was very slim.
Mhm.
And it's really important that we keep an eye out for those things, because typically in runoffs, like a lot of folks in our communities don't necessarily vote because a lot of people aren't aware of it. I will tell
Mhm.
you all now, I am anticipating, but fingers crossed not, but I am anticipating that we do have a runoff election this year. Um, so we should be prepared, because this
Yeah.
may be one of the positions on that ballot. But I just wanted to lift that up because it's so important, especially when we start talking about the recent things around voting. And also, too, the things that the Secretary of State's office has done, especially in light of COVID, to make elections more streamlined and more accessible for people, and also to reduce the wait times in terms of the lines and stuff. I am
Yeah.
curious about what's going to happen now that that power has been a bit diminished due to
Mhm.
SB 202.
Mhm.
But we'll see. We'll see what that I anticipate, because like the lines in 2020 were just so great. I'm not
Yeah.
even like, out of all the elections that I've ever worked, it was just it was one of the smoothest elections that we have had in Georgia, because of those COVID-19 provisions that were put in place.
Yeah.
So again, that position, I just want to stress how critical it is, especially
Yes.
as we're talking about voting accessibility. So
Yes.
sorry.
And I also want to point out, I didn't say this, but if you're new here, we are nonpartisan. So we do not support any candidate or party. We just want to make sure that everybody has access and they're educated on what's on their ballot, how to be able to vote, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to say that. I forgot to say it in the beginning, but just in case anybody's new here, don't know how we get down, we're nonpartisan. So next, I'm going to go over the. For some reason, I am not seeing. I guess if you could speak on this really quick, the job of the Senate, the our U.S. Senate, because I'm not seeing this on my paper. So
No, you're okay. I got you. So U.S. Senate, and also we have a few House of Representative members will service at the federal level. The House is usually comprised of roughly like 435 representatives, while the Senate is comprised of 100. Each state gets 2 senators. Together, these bodies make up Congress, and these are the people who are really going to be able to vet and put forth federal policies, and represent the state of Georgia, in that way, in terms of like holding hearings, and things like that, and basically passing legislation that soon the president will either vote to veto or to sign those bills. Um, and so they also like help continue to advocate on the behalf of the state, in terms of that, and be able to represent what Georgia is bringing in terms of the collective national conversation around some of these bills. So when I think about this, I think about like some of the bills like around the Women's Health Protection Act, which would codify abortion into law. I think about the recent bill, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one that would also codify contraceptive access into law, like in terms of like birth control and condoms and things of that nature. There's also like the bill around reparations, HR 40, which would create a commission to study reparations and create policy recommendations for Congress to, handle years of enslavement and subsequently racism in this country. And so, when we start thinking about our representatives, both in the House of Representatives and the Senate, it's really important to keep those things in mind, that they're really working at a federal level for what the federal government will do and give to the states. So that is definitely it. And thank you. Hold on, I'm going to pull this up. Thank you, Nina. It's the Right to Contraception Act. I appreciate you, because I was like, the name was evading me. Um, so cool. So yeah. But yeah, those are the positions that we have there, in terms of both that. And I know that there's a few representatives who are running for reelection. Um, and there's also, of course, we know about the very popular national conversation around our U.S. Senate race. As Zoe said, we are nonpartisan, but so I can't really get into too many details. But I will say there are 3 candidates running for most of these positions. As much as we get trapped in this two-party system thing, I can tell you all there are 3 candidates running for most of these positions on your ballot. So it's really important to take a look at each of the people there as well.
And you can also write in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So you don't have to pick anybody you don't want to pick. You are free to write in whoever you would like to write in. So now I'm going to go into Attorney General. As the chief legal advisor for the state, the Attorney General represents the state of Georgia in all civil cases before any court and all cases before the United States Supreme Court. And I know that we kind of discussed this, Michelle, before we started, that this is very key to like abortion rights and abortion access in the state of Georgia. So I would love for you to hit on that as well.
Yeah. So like, right now, especially in light of like our particular brand of the abortion ban in Georgia, which for folks who are new to the conversation, I would highly suggest that you check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're on a quest to get to 100 subscribers. But also there's a playlist where we took a really deeper dive into this, but just to give like a rough cut of it, our abortion ban here also declares fetal personhood, which in the fetal personhood declares that life begins at an embryo, while at the same time the abortion ban allows up to 6 weeks, which causes a question like, the ethics, the morality around it, like some of the criminal implications. The Attorney General is able to discern when to take on certain civil cases or when to go after people about certain things. And even when we start having this conversation around if people can be criminalized for going to other states for abortions, this is the position that can really, speak to like if they're going to investigate or do this kind of work. There are other states that have attorney generals who have been kind of leading some of that work. I will say our current attorney general has mentioned it early on, but I have not seen anything about them moving forward with it. But I do think it's something to just consider in terms of like, as we talk about the conversation and knowing about that position, that's also what they do as well, in terms of that.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to go into the state superintendent of schools. The superintendent oversees the state's K through 12 public education system and institutes the policies of the State Board of Education while managing operations for the school system. The labor commissioner, I feel like I'm going kind of out of walk. Hold on, okay, I'll go to the insurance commissioner. Georgia's insurance commissioner is responsible for protecting Georgia families by providing access to vital insurance products and safe buildings through fair regulation and creates economic opportunities for all Georgians. The agricultural commissioner, Georgia's agricultural commissioner, provides services and regulatory functions to protect and promote agriculture and consumer interests and to ensure an abundance of safe food and fiber throughout the state. That's also so important. Oh my goodness, I'm about to go and,
all these commissioner positions are really important, and I think like a lot of people be low key sleeping on them because we also had like we had the public service commissioner on the ballot during that runoff going into 2021, and a lot of people were sleeping on that. And people don't even know that like with the public service commission, they like impact like environmental things. When we think about like how a lot of plants are built close to Black and brown homes, we talk about the cost of utilities. A lot of that resides in the public service commission, even though a lot of people think it's like your municipality. I use that as an example to say that like with the labor commissioner, for example, when we start talking about like unemployment insurance, rehabilitation programs, like it's really important that like we're really understanding like what these folks are doing, right? Like the power that they have, and that we like understand that like we need to decentralize how we're thinking about these things, because oftentimes like what you just shared, people will like look to your governor, your state representatives, your federal representatives, and be like, what are y'all doing? When in reality, we need to be in these commission meetings. We need to be talking to these commissioners.
No, that's so important. Because I have this. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was gonna say I have these conversations with like, people in my age group, like things that you would never think you could vote on, you can vote on. Like even, and I was having this discussion with some college students, and I was like, even I know y'all hate driving in Atlanta. Those roads are horrible. And I was having that conversation. I was like, but y'all can elect somebody who could fix these roads, like that, or that's something that somebody that's, that's something that they want to be done. That's on their, not ballot, but that's something that somebody's, they want to get done in Atlanta. They want to fix the roads or whatever. That's on their list of to dos. You vote for everything. So when you talk about, dang, this light bill is high, or dang, I feel like, such and such is happening. We talk about environmental racism, all of that is in the ballot. And I'm just like, y'all need to we need to do our research, because all of this is so important. But thank you for connecting those dots. And I think we only have a couple of more left. So labor commissioner. The commissioner is responsible for implementing the state's labor regulations, operating its unemployment insurance and rehabilitation programs, and producing statistics and research covering the Georgia labor market. And then last but not least, we have the state Supreme Court. The 9 justices of the Georgia Supreme Court are each chosen by popular vote in nonpartisan elections and serve 6-year terms. The court has exclusive appellate jurisdiction over constitutional cases and election contest cases. It can hear appeal cases about land title, will and equity cases, divorce and alimony cases, certified cases, death penalty cases, and writ of habeas corpus. Oh, that's Latin. Took Latin in high school. Wasn't my strong suit. But yeah, corpus or certiorari. I'm gonna guess that's how you say it. Did not do great in Latin in high school. I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
Look, I can't help you with that word, but I can say, like, with this position in particular, it's something that's also really important. I always continue to use the abortion conversation around that, is because originally that abortion ban that's in Georgia was technically signed into law in 2019. It went before the state Supreme Court, and they filed, and there was an injunction filed on it, which basically put it on pause because it was like, well, this really can't go into effect because of Roe v. Wade. Once Roe v. Wade was overturned, that court case, basically was unpaused. And the Supreme Court, instead of like what would usually happen is if they enacted the law, they would give like 30 days or so, or like 30 to 60 days before it goes into full effect, elected to just do it immediately. So like roughly like a month after Roe v. Wade turned, we like immediately went into effect with the abortion ban. I say that to say that like these races for court positions are typically nonpartisan. However, it's really important that we do our research to understand who's running, with what platforms, and how they're going to best interpret and understand the laws, because they do impact us on a day-to-day in terms of cases that rise to the top and things like that. It's also the last step in terms of court cases that challenge like the constitutionality of things and stuff like that before it heads to the federal circuit, in terms of like heading to like the Supreme Court of the United States. So I always just want to lift up that that's like something really important to keep in mind, because a lot of times people overlook the court proceedings, especially because, again, our political system does us a disservice with the partisan politic. So if people don't see parties on it, you're like, oh, this is fine. Just do your research, and understanding like what the perspectives and things that people are bringing into the courtroom. Because even though judges say that they're being non-biased and stuff like that, like the reality is that we're all human, and people are bringing in the bodies of information they have to make what they believe is the best decision based on the laws of the bodies that they're representing. So that's a little spiel about the state Supreme Court.
No, that's really important. Like, I'm literally, this weekend is me researching so I can do my absentee ballot in bed. So I need to go and see who's running for these positions, because that's so important. I know that my family's going to look up to me and be like, who you voting for? Like things like that. So if you're that person in your family, you got to do your research. So
yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. So cool. So that like really runs us through like the positions on the ballot. The next thing we're going to kind of just do is like a rough rundown of like these constitutional amendments and statewide referendums. I want to go ahead and shout out Nina. Nina's in the audience because they put together some dope notes that I'm going to use to talk about today's like referendums in terms of like their meetings and stuff like that, and like really their overall impact. I will say a lot of this, well, rewind. First of all, please disregard the formatting of this PowerPoint. It's bugging me. I'm sure it's bugging somebody else out there. I didn't do it. On PowerPoint, it looks fine. StreamYards decided to change up my lettering, and that's why statewide is taken, like, that's why the words are broken up. I apologize now, but It's there. So there's like four things on the ballot, and I think it's really important just to know about it, because sometimes you look at it and you're like, what's this? Like, what does this mean? Or like, how should I vote? Or what am I even voting for at this time? And so the first one is about providing suspension of the compensation for certain state officers and members of the General Assembly. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from what Nina wrote. Again, shout out to Nina. It would have state governments stop paying state elected officials when they are suspended from office upon indictment for a felony, rather than waiting for conviction. So, it's something a little bit different that people may not be aware of. So, like right now, where the law situates itself is that they would stop paying those state elected officials once convicted. And this one's saying, no, once you're indicted. Like once it goes to grand jury and you're indicted, that's what that first constitutional amendment would do. The second constitutional amendment provides for temporary local tax relief after disasters. It would allow local government to provide tax breaks to properties that are destroyed or damaged by disasters, as long as those properties are within a nationally declared disaster area. So again, this is like, if you're a business owner or you have different properties in different areas, this might be beneficial to folks in that way. The next one is the state referendum question, which provides tax exemption for certain timber production, reforestation, and harvesting equipment. So again, this is people who are more so into the agricultural business. So really think it's important, but it would exempt timber equipment from property taxes starting in the top of January. And it would include like stuff that's used for timber harvesting, as well as off-road equipment and things of that nature. And then the last thing is the state referendum option B, which expands the tax exemption for family-owned farms and adds qualified productions to exemption. So I'm thinking about my farmers, things of that nature. It would expand the agricultural property tax exemptions that are already in place to apply to dairy and egg products and equipment, and to also, help with family-owned farms as well. So if you're in agriculture, you have a farm that's going in this way, this bill may be a benefit to you in that way. Again, if you want more information about that, or you're like, yo, like I just want to talk a little bit more, just let us know. Okay, we'll provide that information to you in that way. But again, I just want to thank Nina for their hard work and pulling the research together for that, because it is a lot of information and stuff that like is really important, that still has an impact to our lives, but that we may not always be on the radar about in terms of what we're doing. And so that is the end of the slideshow. So I'm going to bring it down now. And so, yeah, that's the ballot in a nutshell. Again, I think from my end, biggest thing is check your My Voter page. that's like the biggest lesson you should take from today. Check your My Voter page, vote early, if you can, and if you need help, Women Engage is here for you. Like, that's what I got. I think that's all I got. I don't know what else to say. So,
no, that's good. Yes, check your My Voter page, see what's on your ballot, make sure you vote on everything on your ballot. And
take our pledge. Yeah. Take our pledge to vote. And I should mention, like, what's unique about our pledge to vote is that if you need assistance with things, like you need an interpreter when you go to the polls, you need stamps for your absentee ballot that you might be sending in, you need help getting research about getting childcare so you can go vote, or let's say you need a ride to the polls during early voting and things of that nature. When you take our pledge to vote, it not only shows the world that like our community is growing and we are getting people to go out to vote, but we're also able to help get those resources for you. Mm-hmm. So please take that pledge today if you can. If you're not in Georgia, share it with your Georgians and tell them to take the pledge. Women Engage has a goal to get this to 300 people. And so it takes all of us to get to that goal. And so I hope you help us achieve it by sharing that link. Again, it's the bit.ly, bit.ly /we, that's capital we, lowercase, I don't know, lowercase pledge 22.
This day is getting all of us. It's okay.
But the word I just said, but please push the vote. It's down there scrolling along the screen. I dropped it in the comments again, but it's the We Pledge 22. And so yeah, I hand it back to you, Zelda, to if we are we doing the thing?
Yeah, we can.
Cool.
Okay,
cool.
So How are you? Well, of course, at Women Engaged, we love to talk about self-care, and we think it's so important that we all incorporate self-care into our daily lives. Because like our existence, I love my friend says this all the time, our existence is political. So this is a hard time for us. And so I would love to hear, Michelle, how you are taking care of yourself in this crazy election season that may not end on November 8th.
I know. So
So,
like it's two things right now, two things for me.
mhm.
So one is that I have reverted back to a tactic that I started in 2020. I'm going to show you. So like I
Okay.
have an issue with staying hydrated, right? So I
Mm,
just buy like these huge jugs of water and I
mhm,
keep them under my desk. So I have to be hydrated throughout the day. So that's one way that I'm taking care of myself because I have to just really bring it back to basics. And
mhm,
the last thing is that like self-care, something that's really keeping me sane right now is my gaming community. So as folks who may already know, and for folks who are new, I'm a avid video gamer. Video gaming is a
mhm,
part of my self-care. However, one layer of my self-care around video gaming is that I do have a video gaming community, people who I game with actively. And they're definitely like a really critical part to my self-care right now. Like,
mhm.
so shout out to the homies, shout out to Shay, shout out to James. Like, y'all are keeping me sane. I love when I can like, in my day and maybe it's an hour or two and I can get on voice chat and we could do like these battle royales and stuff like that. And then it just shows that like for me, a part of my self-care is like being in community. That's really what it is.
Mm.
Like that's why I had to shout out my community um of gamers. And so that's what I'm doing. So what are you doing, Zoe?
No, I love that, and I'm actually that's something I'm really focused on too is being in community with people and trying. Like when you're going through a lot, sometimes you kind of want to isolate. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to do the opposite. I need to be in community. Like I know this weekend I'm going back home to be with my mom and my stepdad and my brothers. But I know for right now, my self care honestly looks like watching reality TV and laughing and just enjoying that. I love TikTok,
Okay.
love TikTok. And I've been buying a lot of watermelon and muscadines. I know I've talked about it a few times. Literally just went to Publix yesterday and bought a whole bunch of watermelon again. I didn't find any muscadines. I guess we're out of season now, technically. But that's what my self care is, just a lot of watermelon, a lot of muscadines, and a lot of reality TV.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
My gosh. Well, it's been a pleasure being on this
Yes.
episode with you, Zoe. Again,
Thank
and shout out
you.
to everybody who's tuning in. I really appreciate you all. And so I'm gonna head back and let you wrap for today, Zoe. But thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Of course. So, of course, thank you all for joining us for today's episode of You Ask, We Answers. I would like to thank our guest, Michelle, who's amazing, for joining us today. And I'd also like to thank you all for watching, who are watching now, and for those who will be watching in the future. Just to reiterate some of our organizational updates, election season is upon us. We're looking for volunteers to join us this election season for digital and in person organizing. If you are interested in text banking, phone banking, or door knocking, please send your resume to info@womenengage.org. We currently pay $20 an hour, 15 to 20 hours a week, evenings and weekends. And also, please visit our Bitly, which will be showcased below to check your voter registration, your sample ballot, and polling locations. And also, pledge to vote. Our Bitly is bit.ly/we, in capital letters, pledge 22. So I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today and supporting the work we do here at Women Engaged. I hope to see you again for next week for another episode of You Ask, We Answers. You can access past YAWA episodes on our YouTube page and further engage with Women Engaged by subscribing to our e-newsletter and socials at womenengage.org/get involved. Thanks again, and I hope everyone has a fabulous day. Bye.